for the next 60 days from now to the 10th of April. 500, 1,000 Adios is what he's saying. Take them back to the banks, the CBN designated sports, that is. And he said quite a whole lot. Well, we'll take a look at quite a number of the things he said during the broadcast today, as we have with us in the studio Mr. Emmanuel Ogbeche. He's the NUJ Chairman of City Council. Thank you so much for making it to the studio today.
Thank you, Kim.
Delighted to have you.
It's good meeting you.
Good to have you on the show.
Thank you very much.
All right. So, Mr. President finally addressed the nation. A lot of Nigerians were waiting with bated breath on the 10th of February for that address to happen, seeing that he said, give me 7 days, and it expired on the 10th. For some reason, he thought, hey, 15th, 16th is a better date to do that. And one thing that he touched on is the fact that he understands that there's so much pain on the people due to this policy. However, it has tons of benefit, and insisting that the old note, 500, 1,000, no longer legal tender, but a little window, 60 days for the 200 naira notes to be used until we kind of stabilizes. Do you think there's even enough to just address some of the concerns going on, given the protests and the tensions in some part of the country?
Well, Kim, first of all, let me make the point very clearly that I do not think that most Nigerians are against currency redesign because of the benefit it has. But primarily, the worry has been the implementation, which has been very sloppy and incoherent. And it is not surprising because it's been the hallmark of this administration right from the one. And looking at what the president said, there wasn't much cheer in it, especially in the face that the matter is before the Supreme Court. Yeah. One had imagined that the president's advisors would have asked him to tarry when he did not address the nation on the 10th as promised. Yeah. You know, and listing all those benefits, you know, people need to, with the benefit of hindsight, that there are historical, there are precedents from other countries, you know, that have taken this path. And one of the most significant countries is India, you know, that went on that route. And the very noble, as it were, gains we will get from this currency redesign were the same ones President Modi touted when he redesigned India's currency. But statistics show that it did not achieve the aim for which it was meant. You know, there was much more money in circulation after the currency redesign, from 18 billion rupees to 20 billion. These are facts. They are verifiable. You understand? And here we are again. But my major worry is that all of Mr. Godwin Emefiele's monetary policies have not yielded any positives. Inflation is about 20,
I think yesterday we saw 21.88%.
That's about 22%. You understand? And what has been the benefit? We have seen interest rates, you know, hike. Now and then we have seen Emefiele saying this. And I think the primary worry is that there wasn't much of engagement before this happened.
I think a lot of people brought that up also.
Because if the Minister of Finance, yes, she's in charge of fiscal policies, but you needed synergy. You needed to have, you know, consulted with the Ministry of Finance. None of that happened. Because you remember immediately Mr. Emefiele announced that there was going to be a currency redesign. She disowned it before she retracted or retraced her steps, simply probably because the president must have called her to order. It's been very shoddy. The president's speech did not address the issue of compensation for people that have lost their property, people that have died. You understand? It was short of empathy. Forget I identify your pain. Just, we have about 4 or 5 banks within 200 perimeters of the CBN. None of those banks have new currencies. Their ATMs are not dispensing. Keystone is within that axis. UBA is within that axis. Fidelity Bank is within that axis. And 2 other banks, just about 200 meters both ways from the CBN. And this is the heart of Abuja. You understand? If you said you had this policy, and 100 naira notes and 50 naira notes were the basis on which we're going to operate. There was not a single new currency of 100 naira notes that was given out in any bank. There was no 50 naira note that was given out.
As a matter of fact, it became even scarce, and I was wondering about that.
You understand? They were giving dirty, stinky, worn out notes from banks.
Yeah.
And I believe these were monies that were meant for the incinerator. They were simply brought back, from being incinerated and put back into the system. People went to the bank, took this note and could not use them, and took them back to the bank.
Banks, yeah.
So it has demonstrated gross incompetence. The input of we are easily.
How so?
Yes, Nigerians are describing this as heroic simply because they believe this is an antidote to vote buying. For you to have a credible election, you must have institutional frameworks that work. It is not a knee and jack approach. This is what we are seeing. This is a government that borrowed 21 trillion through ways and means, which is in breach of the law. You cannot use corruption to fight corruption. Let us not pretend. Suddenly we have all forgiven Emefiele's sins. We have forgiven the president for his incompetence. That is what we have done. Yes, the CBN Act is there, that you cannot give more than 5% of your annual budget as loan. And before you give further loan, the previous year's loan must have been repaid.
Well, isn't that why the federal government is trying to restructure it, so that at least it will fall in line with the provision of the law?
You must pay it within a reasonable time. This government is leaving in about 3 months' time. Not a single of that 21 trillion. They are leaving a debt burden of 77 trillion. People should get this correctly. Now you have left a huge burden for any government, whoever wins, irrespective of whoever wins. Nigerians will not have it easy for the next 2 years. Probably for the life of the incoming administration. For the next 4 years. Because one, remember that subsidy has been withdrawn.
Yeah.
By the time they are leaving, by
June officially.
Yes.
Yeah. And they say by April they will gradually start winning us off.
You understand? And you keep saying that fuel should sell at a certain amount, but marketers are selling at 205. That's the least. At least in Abuja, you can find where you will buy within the official limit. Outside Abuja, in Cross River, for a very long time, my siblings and family have been buying for 350 and above.
Even in Kaduna here.
You understand? It is only in Abuja and Lagos, and not all parts of Lagos, that you buy within the official window. You understand? So when you take this knee and jack approach so that we applaud you that you've done something noble. Now you said 200 naira. Let me give granted to the presidency for being very smart politically, because he beat the governors to it. Erufai was supposed to address
the state
exactly. Today. What are you going to address? But we should also remember that this matter has been at the Supreme Court. And the rule of law is the basis and the foundation for any democracy that intends to thrive.
But you did talk about impact and all of that. The president articulated some of the impacts he sees from the redesign of the policy and all that we're going through. He says the huge volume of banknote outside the banking system has proven to be practically unavailable for economic activities and by implication retards the attainment of potential economic growth. Also said economic growth projection makes it imperative for government to aim at expanding financial inclusion in the country by reducing the number of the unbanked population. And given the prevailing security situation across the country, which keeps improving, it's also becoming compelling for government to deepen its continuing support for security agencies to successfully combat banditry and ransom taking in Nigeria. Notwithstanding the initial setback experience, the evaluation and feedback mechanism set up has revealed that gains have emerged from the policy initiative and is being reliably informed, I want to believe, by Emefiele, that since the commencement of this program, about 2.1 trillion naira out of the banknotes previously held outside the banking system have been successfully retrieved. That represents 80% of such funds. In the short and medium term, it is expected that it will strengthen macroeconomic parameters.
Well, it's good to couch it so beautifully. You understand? The issue of financial inclusion has been a very challenging one. We've been at it for a very long time. Before you talk about financial inclusion, you must also look at IT infrastructure. Our IT infrastructure is very poor. With what has happened, we are all witnesses to the fact that the banking industry does not have the requisite IT infrastructure. There are over 200 or 300 villages in Nigeria that are not covered by internet connectivity. You understand? There are villages in the southeast, you have to climb, you have to look for location. I spent my Christmas in the east. You have to look for location for you to have internet.
Yeah.
You understand? In up north, where Boko Haram destroyed a whole lot of telecoms infrastructures, most of them have not been replaced. When you're talking about financial inclusion, you must look at the infrastructure base that you have before you talk about financial inclusion. As we speak, what effort has the government or the CBN done deliberately in terms of aiding telecom operators, you understand, to expand their network? These are people that managed banks before. We saw that they were fined severally. They had several infractions. You understand? A certain bank may not survive the angst of Nigerians after now because people kept complaining about a particular bank. Other banks had their issues and they're still having their issues. As I'm sitting here, a bank is owing me 50,000 naira. I made transfer since October last year. I've been there twice, I filled form, they said they will attend to me. And I am not alone in this. Nobody is against government doing financial inclusion, but it is a gradual process. Now, when Emefiele said there was going to be Naira redesign, he gave us 3 months. Now, in real terms, it wasn't 3 months because the new notes did not come out as at when expected. You understand? It took time. When you look at the timeline, it was like less than a month. Now you're giving Nigerians 48 hours to return their own notes. Yesterday, here in Abuja, the CBN was besieged. You understand? Police had to go disperse angry Nigerians that had waited from some as early as 6 a.m. Nobody attended to them. And you're saying you're giving them 48 hours. What does that mean? Just lose your investment, however legitimate you are. People, they say they are targeting, they have their ways. Some of them are major shareholders in financial institutions, their own banks. And the governor himself, remember, said it, that people were hoarding the new currency for elections. Who are those? It can't be you and I. It can't be you and I. What we simply said is, this matter is before the Supreme Court, the apex court. And by law, the president is obligated to honor whatever decision flows from the Supreme Court. All you needed to do was just wait.
Going by this extension, I mean, from February 10th to April 10th of the 200 Naira note, he's emphasized that 500 and 1,000 are no longer legal tender. And that goes against the adjournment of the Supreme Court, which has a hearing February 22nd. Does this go to show that the president is disobeying the Supreme Court or preempting what could play out?
No, it's apparent. You know, unfortunately, I do not know how the justices will take this. Let me not preempt them and let me not say what ordinarily I should say. But I think it is very responsible, you understand, for the presidency to have acted in this manner.
Responsible or irresponsible?
Irresponsible. Okay. All they needed to do was just to wait. You understand? Whatever the outcome was going to be, then you act on it. You must always find a way after a judgment, you understand, to act on it. Now, some people are being very happy about what has happened. Now, and I told somebody, I hope that tomorrow when some other illegality happens that does not suit your whims and caprices, you're not going to complain. We shouldn't complain or celebrate breaking the law, whoever you are. That is the essence of, that is why democracies work. That's why America is a great country. That's why Britain works. Because whoever you are, you must obey the law. It's as simple as that.
But some people will tell you this government particularly is guilty of breaching some of these provisions of
So
the law
must
in
we
terms of the
run-
rule of
must
law.
we run in
No,
circles?
it's become almost very synonymous with the government, such that some people, some quarters and critics are not even surprised that the Supreme Court says one thing and the executive is going with something opposite.
That's why we are near a banana republic. We are not absolutely there, but we are near a banana republic.
All right, so MFL has met with the banks and is appealing that they comply. And so far, we've seen one consistent narrative, making the bank, pitching the bank against the people. And you see with the protests that people were even attacking and destroying bank facilities, and quite a number of them in different parts of the country. Yeah, because the narrative have made it look like the banks are the problem. They are the ones holding the money. We put out tons of money. The banks are sitting on it, giving it to their cronies, their friends and politicians. And we saw some videos emerge where, they were like, look at new money behind the old money. Why are you hiding it? And so that's enough to stir up emotions to say the banks are the problem. If MFL is meeting with the bank and say comply, it's just giving an impression that they are the roadblock.
No, it's because we're not listening carefully to what MFL says.
Okay.
Yes, MFL said the CBN had mopped up over 2.1 trillion.
Mm-hmm.
And he further added that there was no way they were going to put that volume of money back into circulation. What does that tell you? That there is a shortfall in terms of what has been put out. Now, we've heard that about only 700 billion out of this 2.1 trillion that have been mopped up.
I mean, is that even a figure from the CBN?
Yes, he said it severally.
Okay.
You understand? It's even in the president's speech. It's there.
Okay.
You understand? That about 2.1 trillion thereabout, have been mopped up, left with about 700 billion. Now, the implication simply is that the banks really do not have that volume to meet the needs of the people.
Okay.
However, the fact that we have some unscrupulous elements
holding it. Let's go on a very quick break, shall we? I will be back to look at some more of the story. Stay with 95.1 Nigeria Info.
This is Nigeria Info.
For ABJ. Hakim Mohammed, we see you. Thank you for joining us. Ibrahim Hajara, we see you also. Peter Asu says, good afternoon, Itodo and Kimberly. Who are those crying? How much money do they have in their houses that they can't take to the banks in the 4 months? Politicians and 500 billion. Anthony Duru says, good afternoon, Mr. President Naman. He has fully declared his intention on the redesign of the note and also claimed full responsibility for it despite mentioning scrupulous bankers. Asiru Abbas says it's preposterous that Nigerians cannot withdraw their money because of this policy that he tags as obnoxious. Let's read some from Facebook.
All right, Facebook right here. This says, good afternoon, and it's from Ogochukwu Odo. And Oladoye Peter says, good afternoon, Kim and Itodo. The questions are, why must people suffer because you don't want to stop or you want to stop vote buying? Are there no other ways to achieve this objective without exposing us to this hardship? Are the new notes available? How long will it take for the new notes to be available and circulate? Could Nigerians cope with this until the new notes are ready, considering the e-transaction failures, delays, inefficiency, coverage, and education? With all these, the policy is defeated. You don't cut off a head to cure headache. That's Femi Peters right here in Abuja. And Godwin Ode says, I have Okay, Godwin Ode, thanks for your message right there.
All right, that's pretty much it. We're still talking with our guest in the studio. And yes, you were saying, so the banks do not even have enough money to put back in circulation. So they're also caught between a rock and a hard place. We'll get to see what happens if the CBN vault will be opened for the 200 naira to come out.
Well, let's wait.
Yeah.
But let's talk about what some governors are saying, or what they're instructing people to do. In the northern part of the country, we hear that they are being told to keep spending. I mean, some have been threatened that if they were to refuse collecting the old naira notes, their businesses will be shut down, or the banks will be closed, or the CFOs will be revoked.
It's not just in the north. Ondo State governor and Ogun State actually gave similar order, but I think they are also irresponsible. Yes, because some of these governors were the ones that they approached the Supreme Court, in resolving the logjam that we have. So you can't be probating and reprobating. If you have approached the Apex Court to decide on this matter, you have no say any further until the Supreme Court makes a decision on this. For you to threaten the banks when they do not have the cash, for you to threaten private businesses when it is a federal government directive and it is on the exclusive list, does not make any sense. You understand? We are creating a riotous situation for people. You understand? Do I obey the federal government? Do I obey my state simply because I want to keep my business afloat? You understand? So that is why there is need for probably a political solution to this.
But we know that, seeing that we run a federal system, anything the federal government puts out supersedes all at this point in time. So
absolutely.
This is some sort of insubordination on the part of the governors.
That's what I'm saying. It's on there exclusively. The issue of currency and all of that, it's on there exclusively. It's not even a concurrent matter. And for the fact that you've approached the ultimate court in the land, what you needed to have done was to wait. You understand? And stop threatening businesses. Small businesses are hurting. Businesses are shutting down. A lot of people have been stranded. I have been forced almost on a daily basis to look for money as transport for my staff. You understand? I do it on a daily basis. And it has not been easy. Some persons have not been going to work. Because how do you transit? The taxi driver is not going to take
a transfer.
And probably you make a transfer and it doesn't, reflect on the guy's balance. You're left stranded. People now go to filling stations. The queue you find at the filling stations are no longer because there are no
scarcity, but
it is because people are trying to make payments, that they're hanging.
I was actually worried about the queue building in some areas.
No, that is what is happening. Sometimes people go to supermarket. A friend, actually a journalist, went to supermarket, saw a lady that wanted to pay with new cash. I ran to her and said, please, don't worry, let me do transfer. Luckily for him, the transfer went and he took the cash. That is how people are surviving. I had to bill little money to my mom in the village, and it is happening all around. Let us not pretend. Even some of these people that are hailing these policies, it's what's up for most of them. Without being boastful, it hasn't affected me in any way. Absolutely not. It hasn't. But there are people that cannot pay their bills. They cannot buy medicines. There are people in the hospital. You know how our hospitals behave. You must make down payment. I have not seen
I must see evidence
I have
of
not
payment.
seen evidence of payment. The POS people have been chased out, practically out of business. You understand? Apart from what the federal government is doing, the authorities in Abuja are saying you can't stay here, you have to be in central business district. When we are living in communities, we are living, where we transact commercial activities on a daily basis. They should cut us some slack now, Abeg.
Now, the president spoke about implementation and how the CBN should collaborate with the anti-corruption agencies to ensure that any institution or persons not paying attention, maybe sabotaging its implementation, should bear the full weight of the law. Who is he calling out by making this statement? Who are those that will be affected by it?
No, what he's simply saying is that bank officials are not putting out what they are getting. But I think we can cure this mischief. Just on a daily basis, Bank A got this volume.
So amount,
Bank B got this volume. Then we will know and let the banks deny that actually they got that.
It says how many
volume.
banks do we have that you
How
can
many
list?
banks? These days, and I'm even seeing coin. What can the coin buy?
I mean, Polaris Bank put out coins yesterday
Yes.
or 2 days back.
The pure water is how much now? 15 naira thereabout? I don't know.
I'm not sure.
I'm not really sure.
Yeah.
You understand? Pure water that is the most basic. You don't even find it sweet for 10 naira.
20 naira or so.
20 naira.
You
20
don't
naira for the
find-
pure water, 20 naira for a sweet. You can buy for 10 naira as well.
No sweet for 10 naira. I can assure you.
Wow.
Wow.
I can assure you, all this minty sweets we buy, you can't find any for 10 naira. It's not possible.
Wow.
You understand? That's how bad it is. Inflation has eaten. If you say you want to address the issue of inflation, must you kill all of us before you achieve?
No, but it's not even addressing inflation at all.
No, perhaps because when you count the gains, and financial inclusion and all of that, probably it will force down the cost of goods and services. But what of the cost of production? On a daily basis, the electricity distribution companies are hiking their fees.
Yeah.
They are not making any announcement. NEC, which is the regulator, seem to be unable to address the issue. You understand?
Yeah.
Over 1 year now, we've had about 6 or 7 hikes in electricity tariff. Nobody's saying anything. Then how do you expect the cost of production to fall? How? It's not magic. Diesel is selling at over the top. People are buying fuel at exorbitant costs. The forex window, I didn't say it, the former CBN governor said it, it's not working for a lot of businesses. Because there was a time you go to the banks, you can't get forex. No matter what CBN, people had to source from black markets. We have so many forex windows. Rather, they were doing round tripping. People were getting and selling and becoming billionaires. At least Emir Sanusi said it, we heard it, and he was not countered. Nobody came out to say, no, you're wrong, we are not doing this.
All right. Well, still looking at some of the things the president said, it feels as if this cash crunch is, making us distracting us from the election, which is just a few days away, about a week away, 9 days away from now. And all of that. And you did mention in passing how this would affect INEC also, because the INEC chairman actually, you got INEC, I think it was one of the commissioners who was talking about how the cash crunch was going to affect INEC.
Yes.
And we've not heard any strong position from INEC saying, we've received money, don't worry, cash is not going to be a constraint. But the president is also reassuring Nigerians that the election is going to go smoothly, and that citizens should go out vote for the candidate of their choice without fear, because security will be provided and your vote will count. Encouraging people to eschew violence, avoid action capable of disrupting the election process. The president has said in the past that this is one legacy he's going to leave behind, a free, fair election. And even though a lot of people have kind of tied this, even the government have given the impression that, this cash situation and redesign is directly or indirectly tied to having a free, fair election and avoiding vote buying and the likes of it. This assurance coming one more time is one to look at if all of this is not even going to affect it in the long run. But he's giving assurances to saying, let's not forget the 25th of February, the election, and we intend to make it fair.
I think having a free, fair, credible election isn't just about the Buhari presidency.
Okay.
It is a collective effort by Nigerians, by institutions, by civil society organizations to ensure that we deepen our democracy and we have a process that is credible. And I must give it to the INEC chairman, because they have demonstrated vision and consistency, about improving on our electoral system. Now, I do not know how many of us paid attention to the Yaga Africa report of the mock accreditation exercise. Nigerians need to go read carefully that report. You understand? So that no party tomorrow will come out and say, we were rigged out. No. That report is very instructive in its outcomes, in its observations. And that is why people, that is my problem. We do not look at things holistically. People are simply just looking at it from a mono direction, that because there's no cash, people have hoarded, they can't buy votes. No, let me tell you what one thing that report said. A particular political party had the highest number of observers across all polling units where it happened. One party had just about 20%. Do you know the implication?
In one polling unit?
No, across. Just 20%. Do you know the implication, Kim?
What is the implication?
Implication is that a certain political party will not have agents across the country. And when you do not have your agents across the country, it is not security agents that will come and watch the poll for you.
Mm-hmm.
It is not the citizens that will come and watch. You must have your own representative. One other thing that is happening is that in some parts of the country, they have bought trapper, they have bought grains. You have weaponized vote buying in a different manner, not necessarily cash.
Stomach infrastructure.
People are hungry. People are desperate. You understand? And so to imagine if now 2,000 naira new note is worth 10,000 naira for some persons, you've simply weaponized poverty. And if we go by what the CBI governor said, that politicians are hoarding the new note or have hoarded it, that means in far-flung areas where we have the majority of the people, 2,000 naira will work the magic. One, you don't have agents in those areas. It is, look, the security agents are not to interfere with the process when it is smooth, and a lot of things happen. So people should begin to pay attention very closely to what is happening. So for those that are saying it is Uhuru, we have been hearing that $20 bills are flush now within the system. $20 bill is far more than 1,000 naira. It's about 10,000 naira or more. You understand? So when government is thinking of, then in some parts of the country, they don't use naira basically as their currency. They just cross the border.
The border towns.
They use CFA francs. They use all of those currencies are in circulation in those parts of the country. So you cannot just focus on we must change the color of the naira. We must take out this denomination. No, you build institutional frameworks. You don't do it in a fire brigade approach. You must be systemic. I am happy that the president suddenly is concerned about the legacy he's leaving, what Nigerians, he tells himself, try to console himself, I've done my best, whatever Nigerians want to think. He could just leave and Nigerians will forget if actually there was a president. They would just remember a time when things were very difficult. That is how society works sometimes.
All right, let's get some calls in before we move to the next story. And we've been talking about the president broadcast, 200 naira, still pretty much will be injected back in the economy and in circulation. But 500, 1,000 naira sadly is gone for now, in spite of the Supreme Court's position that is still a legal tender. And we also looked at the implication of that, what it means in terms of the rule of law, how the president disregards the Supreme Court on this particular one, and other issues that the president highlighted during his impromptu broadcast to the nation this morning. Let's get your perspective on this story before we move on. I think we can take about 3 or 4 phone calls and move on, and read some messages also. 0700 951 0000 or 0809 5974 869 or 080 399 30137.
Welcome to you.
Hello, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Yeah, good afternoon to the entire crew. This is Dr. We're calling from Kubwa.
Good afternoon, sir.
Go ahead.
Yes. Well, I have said this over time in this station that this new development is actually a welcome one. We may be feeling the brunt right now, but I want us as Nigerians to start looking at futuristic solutions, not immediate solutions. We have tried immediate solutions since 1967 to date, and it's not working. Some other countries used to read how China went and locked their borders and gave themselves 20, 30 years. Today, China is the biggest economy in the world, if I'm not mistaken. So we need to start somewhere. We need to look at the benefits of this design. Yes, I'm happy the president came up and said the old 200 naira item in circulation. Yes, I'm in support of it because immediate effect is that there's going to be a reduced vote buying. If you like bring 2,000 naira, yes, it's not going to stop vote buying, but if you reduce it drastically, at least by 50%, because we all know the new naira is there in circulation. Trust me, as a doctor, you cannot give me 2,000 naira to vote for you. Maybe
All
if
right.
you want to bribe me, normally give me like 200,000 or 300,000. So what I'm saying is the people that will collect the small money are going to be reduced.
All right, sir.
So let's look at it from that point. That this is a step in the right direction. From next time, they will improve on more.
All right. Thank you very much. We get your point.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Itodo.
Welcome.
Good afternoon, Digital Oracle and our guest.
Good afternoon,
Abubakar
sir.
from Bagwalada. What is the essence of social policy wreaking havoc across the board? People are groaning under economic hardship. The social policy should promote businesses, human talent, efficiency, productivity, and to curb corruption and abject poverty. But revise the case. Today in Gogola's market, Gogola market is deserted. No, how can economy flourish without a cash? It's not possible, like you liken it to a vehicle moving without source of energy. What I make America to is not American dollar. Why a policy rubbishing Nigeria naira? Also, out of suddenly a policy will render Nigeria naira valueless. It's a pity. This is anti-people policy. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you very much. Let's hear this caller. Hello. Hello.
Hello. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon to you.
Let me go straight to this. Look, for me, the excuse the CBN give regarding the money in circulation, the money Nigeria has in circulation is nothing compared to other countries. It's just 3.5 of the total money we have in circulation. And if you go to places like Japan, they have about 20% of their money in circulation. If you go to the US, it's about 7.5. Nigeria is just 3.5. And for me, if you mop up 2.something trillion and then you decided to put back 700 or 900 billion, for me, you're not punishing the big people that you think this thing funny. In fact, you just enhance the so-called vote buying. And then second, the state governor. I think the person that is violating the law here is the federal government. The state government, the Supreme Court said they should maintain the status quo. And that's why the state governments are telling these people to continue to spend the old note.
Yes.
The federal government is the only one who comes out and said that you should spend only 200. When the Supreme Court says, wait until we do the final judgment. So I think the state governments are on the right direction. It's only the federal government that is violating that same constitution by itself. And for me, we should allow this thing to flow for 1 year because all the economic indices are showing that it's not for the purpose that they said we wanted it. Because there's no way to be able to mop up that money.
All right.
Because the people that are suffering even more are the common people. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Good afternoon.
Hello, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Yes, my name is Simeon. I'm calling from Kubwa.
Welcome.
I think it's quite unfortunate where we are as a people. Some of the things we suffer and do in this country, we don't deserve them. But if you look at it from the other side, it's okay. We actually voted the people in, then they are giving us, they are giving back to us who they are. I don't think there's any difference. There's nothing has changed. You can't say you banish, you did not approve 500 and 1,000, you approved 200 because you don't want politicians to use the money to rig election or whatever reason is known to them. These politicians are in possession of the new currency already, according to them. So why are you suffering the people? The politicians don't even need this old currency if they want to rig the election. Produce new currency today, give it to bank. They own the bank. So they can get the new currency from the bank and make use of it the way they want. I don't know why we make policies and it's as if we don't think. Because this is a sign that, okay, we talk or we do things but we don't reason.
All right, sir.
All right.
How can you say you have
Thank you very much. Let's look at one more story.
Okay, moving on to the Wike issue right now, ruling out last-minute deal with Atiku after meeting with Tinubu. Now, the G5 is made up of Wike, Samuel Otom of Benue State, Seyi Makinde of Oyo, Okekpe Azu of Abia, and Ifeanyi Ogwuanyi of Enugu. Now, the agreed PDP governor had pulled out of the campaign of Atiku, giving the resignation of Senator Ayu as a national chairman as condition for them to return. But the PDP carried on its campaign without their inputs, inaugurating a presidential campaign council in Oyo without the involvement of Makinde. We also heard that they refused to campaign in Rivers State because they feared it was going to be dangerous and lead to deaths, and that's the reason why they turned it down. But initially, their request to campaign in Rivers State to have a rally was turned down by the governor and eventually approved. Now, during the campaign of the APC in Rivers State, the candidates of the APC met with Wike, who, he went on describing as a man of character and a man who would do something for Nigeria. But the PDP have constantly accused Wike of anti-party activities, and there's a case in court right now about his expulsion from the PDP. In moving forward, what effect does a G5, who a lot of people have been waiting to see who they endorse for president, what effect does he have, and how, with the way things are playing out right now?
The Rivers drama is just symptomatic of what Nigerian politics is about, lacking in ideology. Yes, no principle. Because it isn't just about, because Wike is dramatic, is showboating all the time, so we think he alone is in this mess.
More like a one-man show.
Yes, he's not. Because there's a governorship candidate in Enugu that asked, in Afghan in particular, Frank Wike.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yes, has asked his supporters, Abga supporters, the voters, to vote LP for president. And vote
Abga for others.
Abga for others. You understand? Unamani is doing the same thing. So it is just about lack of ideology. Because if we were ideologically driven as political parties, you will not find these strange happenings. You get it? And it is unfortunate, let me say this quickly, that the PDP will ask that a state of emergency be declared in Rivers. Yes, it was said by the PDP spokesperson, and the campaign council hasn't come out to disown that. It is anti-democratic. It is against the rule of law. What do you intend to achieve? Because this man is not supporting you. Your party's constitution is very clear on what to do. Forget about the court. That's why when I saw that they suspended or expelled Nnamani, I went to look at what the PDP constitution says. They don't have the authority. It must start, a disciplinary committee must start from the ward. You understand? And you must write him. He must appear. If he doesn't appear, he should send a representative. All those steps were not followed. That's why he told them, I will go to court, I will obtain it. Yeah. And he's still doing that. We must begin to build political parties based on ideology. That is why you find a capitalist is in a people's party that is socialist in content and in principle. That is not, it is just our clamor to gain power. You get it? I do not think if this election is to go the way we envisage it to be, a people's election, that the governors will really determine the outcome of this election. The people may just vote theirs. If you read Chinua Achebe's...
That was a country?
No. If you read Chinua Achebe, Arrow of God, where Zelu said, I'm going to send my son, you understand, to this new religion so that whatever is there will bring for me. And whatever, you understand? So that might just be the situation. These people might cook for the community will finish it. But when the community cooks for them, it might just be an antithesis. And that is exactly what I'm looking at.
But here's the interesting thing with Wike. He said January was going to declare, even though he came back and retracted, saying he didn't say he was going to say publicly who was going to support. However, PDP is now saying this looks like Wike is with the APC, seeing that there's a recent visit with some APC members and the presidential candidate.
Visited Wike twice or thrice.
Mm-hmm.
You understand?
And he even
in
said
the
he was
past,
going to support him
and
with
he was even going to support
logistics
him.
and all of that. Yeah.
But apparently, I think you will have to look at where you think the votes will come from, who is going to win, because after now, what will be your political relevance?
So it's just being clever by half.
I just hope he has not shot himself, in the foot. But I wish him all the best and the further governors.
All right. Let's take this call quickly and go on a quick break.
Welcome to you.
Hello, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
My name is Marcel.
Go ahead, please.
So, my thoughts on the G5 governors. Well, I just believe that the G5 governors are, as they say, they are 5 in number. They have only 5 voters cards. For example, in my state, I'm from Benue State, my governor is not thinking of his senatorial ambition. He's moving with Wike, who is going to retire with no job. So I wonder how he's trying to see if he can win his own senatorial election, and he's going about campaigning against his own party. Personally, I'm going to vote for people. Personally, I don't need the government to vote for.
All right.
So the G5 governors, they are irrelevant. They have nothing to do.
All right. So they cannot influence you at this point in time.
Yeah, because it's a very risky choice. The national elections and the presidential elections are holding the same day. And when you have in the rural areas where people are not so literate, how you will distinguish? Because sometimes you just vote, let me just vote the party
across
I want,
board.
and you vote across board.
Yeah.
So it's a very tricky situation.
Indeed.
And that's what this guy is saying.
All right, let's go on a very quick break. I will be back to hear more from you. Stay with 95.1 Nigeria Info.